Hey everybody, welcome once again to Manga Mondays, the only manga review show that only half intended to become fixated on single volume stories. Today, not love, but delicious food make me so happy. I actually didn't realize this was a one volume story when I bought it. I thought it was going to be, I really thought this was going to be more of a normal manga about like a foodie, like some kind of josei manga that was like obviously actually about love, considering that it's brought up in the title at all. It's not. This is a food manga, and it's also an autobiography. It's a story about this manga author, Fumi Yoshinaga, who is an award-winning yaoi manga artist. She wrote Antique Bakery and Oku, which I had heard of both of those, so I know they're fairly popular yaoi manga. But this is just a story about her life as a hardcore gourmet. She is someone who constantly eats out at really quite fancy restaurants, and takes other people with her. So each chapter of this is pretty short. I want to say the chapter's only like 10 pages long, but it'll be that she takes another one of her coworkers or friends or somebody else she's involved with out to eat and discuss the food with them, fanboy over it, and then there's sort of a like each chapter will usually like establish the context of why they're going out to eat, then describe the meal in detail, and then offer some more context afterwards. Now, I bought this for the obvious reason that I'm a big foodie. I love food quite a lot. I love eating out. But the food is my least favorite aspect of this book. In fact, this is borderline travel literature because all the restaurants are real, and she describes like real meals that you can buy at those restaurants. She even gives pricing and like maps at the end of each chapter. Like, hold on. At the end of every chapter, there'll be a page that like shows you where the restaurant is, like gives you all of its info, and like she explains about how much it costs to eat there. Now, it's possible that the conversion rates were very different when this was written, because this came out in 2005 in Japan. But she eats at some pretty expensive restaurants. Like, I want to say the cheapest ones she goes to are like 2,500 yen a meal, which by today's conversion rate is like $25. I don't know if that's what it was at the time. Maybe it was closer to like $18 or something, because this was, I remember back when the dollar was worth a lot more than the yen. I don't know what it was in 2005, though. But I'm someone who goes to a lot of restaurants, and I am well willing to pay like $10 to $20 for a meal, but like she will go much farther above and beyond that, but it's also because she eats a lot more. She'll go there and eat like fucking half the menu every time she goes. Which, by the way, one of my favorite things about this is that she presents herself as overweight, and like, here's how she presents herself usually at the start of a chapter. And then once she has her hair and makeup done, she's a completely different person, essentially. And, like, here's her in the same chapter, like, all done up and pretty. Funnily enough, she never looks like she does on the cover here. Like, everyone else looks exactly the same on the cover as they do in the book, but she never presents herself that way. She usually presents herself as, like, an out-of-shape, almost 40-year-old manga artist. It's actually, like, really inconsistent how she portrays herself. Like, depending on what style she's supposed to be going for, she'll look totally different. And then the other major characters, like her assistants and, like, publishers or just, like, friends who she hangs out with. Here's a great beginning of the chapter image from one of the later chapters. But yeah, the most interesting part of this is actually all the side characters and her relationships with them, such as her assistant, this guy up top, who she lives with, and the two of them have been working together for a really long time, and they're close like family, but they've never had a romantic involvement. Like, he's kind of a terrible assistant, but he's like good at sort of keeping her life together because she's like, you know, a fucking manga artist slob. And they have an interesting relationship. My favorite page in the entire story is a part where she gets drunk and comes home and passes out. And she had been like on a, I don't know if she was on a date, but she was like really dressed up nice. Like she'd gone all out on trying to make herself look good. So she passes out on the floor and he's looking down at her and he's like, man, she actually looks really good right now. Like, I'm actually feeling some type of way. And then he goes, maybe I should go rub one out. And then he goes off and comes back and looks down at her and goes, I'm amazed at how much I don't care anymore. And it's by far my favorite page in the entire book. Moments like that make this a fun read. But the middle section of any chapter is just literally describing all of the food in grossly extensive detail. Like, they'll sit down at the table and there'll just be pages of characters taking a bite of the food and then describing, like, oh, the peanut whatever really rolls off of the stuff, like, it melts into each other so perfectly, and, oh, I can taste the sorbet on the whatever, like, just so much of it. And, like, none of these are dishes I've ever had before. Like, they go to a huge variety of restaurants. Like, the first one they go to is, like, an Italian restaurant. There's French cuisine. There's a bunch of Japanese places of different varieties. There's all kinds of shit, but, like, I can't really get an image in my head of what the food looks or tastes like just based on them, like, ranting descriptions and drawing pictures, because, like, I've never had any of this food. So it's kind of unrelatable for me. Like, I go into those parts and I'm just like, it sure would be nice if I could eat that stuff, but, like, first of all, you can't find most of this shit in America, like, especially all the Japanese restaurants they go to. At one point, they went to an eel restaurant, like a restaurant that's mostly focused on eel, which I was extremely jealous of, because I'm a huge eel guy, as people will know if you follow my Let's Play show. I'm way into eel, but, you know, that's not a thing here. It's really hard to come across eel in most American cities. And, like, this is a whole restaurant for eel. So, like, much as I'd love to eat there, reading them describe the eel in such exhaustive detail, I was just like, yeah, okay, I get it. I'll bring this with me if I go to Japan, I assure you. But again, like, the lifestyle she leads, it's funny because it's similar to me. Like, I eat out almost every day, but I'm just not willing to go to the same price points that she is, because, like, I don't probably make as much money as she does as a relatively popular manga author, you know, with weekly series and shit. So, like, in many ways, this felt like what I see my life becoming. Like, if I made maybe 30% more than I do now, this is what my life's gonna turn into, is me going to, like, ritzy restaurants all the time. And I mean, the food porn drawing wise is okay. The artwork is pretty, like, I don't know, I like the way she draws characters and expressions and stuff, but it's pretty simple. Like, it's very text dense. It took me a long time to read this. Like, it took me, I want to say, like, 5 or 6 days to get through this thing, which is more than usual for this show, just because there is so much fucking text on the pages. Like, even though a chapter is only 10 pages long, it takes as long to read, if not longer, than a normal manga chapter, and so there's a shitload of chapters in here. And it got to a point where I started just skipping the food descriptions. Like, I would just skim past those, because the other stuff's kind of interesting. Like, sometimes her relationships with people are cool. I like the way that she describes people and sort of encapsulates what they're all about in, like, very quick fashion. I'll show you what I mean with a character, this girl. This is a girl who she refers to as Amesha, or American Car, because her fuel efficiency is extremely bad. She can eat and eat and eat and never get fat. So she's an American Car. And she's in a constant state of ennui. And that's all explained on just this page. And you get, like, a great sense of the character and their relationship. And they're both, like, huge food. Like, she goes out with her and they're both, like, they eat too much and they kind of get like weird like responses from waitresses based on how much they order, and so they're trying to like they go to like this restaurant known for extreme portions, like hoping that they'll be able to order just one dish and it'll be enough, but then it ends up not being enough. Like the waitress had kind of convinced them not to get extra, and then at the end they obviously want extra, so it's like there's funny human drama in here, but goddamn, sitting through the sheer walls of texts was just a bit too much. So I'm torn about this. I would say that if you are a huge foodie and you like actually go to nice restaurants, this might be worth reading. Or if you just enjoy hearing descriptions of food more than I do, it's fairly entertaining just as like a josei manga. And definitely as a travel guide. Like, if you're in Japan and you're looking to throw down at some restaurants, like in, I'm guessing, Tokyo, wherever the hell this takes place. I should probably find that out. But even then, it might not even be it might not be helpful anymore because this was written in 2005. So, like, the weirdest thing about this for me is I don't know why this was released. Like, I don't know why this was released in America when it's got so little relevance to in America. Like, most of the food is stuff I've never tasted. Most of the restaurants are places I will never go. Maybe it was just released because her manga is popular here, but, like, this has no real relevance to her manga. There is one great part where there's a gay guy who she knows, and she like apologizes to him for the fact that even though her manga are about gay couples, they don't really represent gay culture. And he's like, look, he's like, yeah, I don't care, It's a interesting moment to see that happen with a yaoi writer, but yeah, overall, it's all right. I don't think most people would enjoy this, who are watching this show. If you are someone who would enjoy this, you will know based on what I've said. So anyways, that's all for this one. See you next Monday.